Bergschrund Project, music and storytelling that brings the spirit of climbing to honor the past.
Hey. I'm Emily, and I am part cyborg currently. So I'm currently not able to actually climb a lot, but it's what is my collecting baseball cards thing. It's the thing I'm the most stoked about. I started climbing, and I learned how to climb pretty much everything I know from an ex-boyfriend. That's how a lot of women start to climb. I know it's kind of like the old story, but I was really lucky because my ex was really into trad alpine climbs. So I started by learning trad, and my first climb outside was a multi-pitch. In fact, I only did multi-pitches for pretty much the first year that I climbed, to the point where when I climbed a single pitch climb with a friend, she was like, "Do you want me to lower you at the top, or are you going to rappel?" And I was like, "What do you mean, you're not going to come up here with me?" And so kind of did things a little bit backwards. But I was really lucky to have someone to show me like entirely everything, and also to show me that you don't have to do things super on like a linear scale. Like a lot of people say, oh, you have to be climbing in the gym for X amount of time, you have to lead at this grade before you do trad, and that kind of got like shot to hell from me learning from this person. So my first lead was 3 months after I started climbing, and it was Grand Teton, and that was really dumb. But it went swimmingly. So I think like learning that you don't always have to follow the rules, and you can kind of take climbing to be whatever you want it to be, whether you're like a crusher at bouldering or you do long, really easy alpine climbing routes. And I was really lucky to have that person. But after we broke up, I kind of thought that like the world was going to end and no one would ever climb with me. So I had to seek out mentors. And one of my really interesting experiences was traveling around and kind of visiting different climbing areas by myself and trying to find people who would go out and climb with me. Luckily, nowadays, I feel like it's pretty easy to find people. I just posted on a Gunks climbing group, like, hey, does anyone want to climb with me? And somehow I ended up with this, like, 70-year-old dude who's been putting up routes in the Gunks for forever. And I get to the crag and he's wearing like tiny little short shorts, and we start to like get racked up. He has all nuts and like maybe 3 or 4 cams, and he just has a piece of webbing tied around his waist, like he doesn't actually have a harness. And yeah, I'm like flaking out the rope, and I start to like set my gree up, and I'm like, okay, I've got you on belay. And I look up and he's like 15 feet above me already, and I was like, okay, so, all right, see ya. So he was great though, because one thing that I loved is he was like, a lot of people tell me that I climb like a woman, and I'm always like, thank you. That means that I'm like careful and thoughtful about my climbing technique. And I thought that was really cool, and that kind of inspired me a lot because, I don't know, I just mostly a lot of mentors that I met were men, and like, again, super grateful for that. But then I realized after a while that once I learned all these things, that I could be a mentor and kind of give back from everything that I'd gotten from these folks over the past few years. So I started a group called Up and Glow Collective. And one of the biggest factors of it is like pairing women and trans folks up with other people and learning from them, and kind of taking away that leadership aspect of climbing and really diving in and making it whatever you want it to be. Like the person before me said, it's not all about grades, but it is really fun when you kind of get your ass kicked and you can push yourself really hard, and having a mentor is really important for that kind of stuff. So I think my biggest takeaway from climbing, has been that kind of taking that empowerment from climbing and applying it to other aspects of your life. And, you know, if you can get out being fairly scared about getting on something, having a good mentor to push you, and then being able to apply that to all other aspects of your life is a pretty badass feeling. Oh, and then I was going to say that my favorite piece of gear was my sleeping bag. I know it's like kind of weird, but I did the PCT and I cowboy camped in my sleeping bag for, I think, like 2,000 miles of it with no tent. So whenever I get into my sleeping bag, it kind of just feels like home. And then my actual favorite piece of climbing gear is my number 4 cam, because I feel like whenever I place it, I'm like justified in buying it, because I was like, and yeah, seriously, when I bought it, I was like, no way, this is dumb. And then every time I place it, I'm like, fuck yeah. Thanks so much, guys.